Develop your intuitive and psychic ability, an easy to follow, practical course. What is the difference between intuitive and psychic? Well, that's a very good question. But before we get to it, let me briefly introduce the course to you. I call this a practical course because it consists of a selection of interesting and fun things for you to do. Exercises designed to explore and enhance your intuition. When it comes to the ongoing development of our intuitive ability, the most productive advice I can offer is to practice, practice, practice. When I look back to 30 years ago, I recognise that the way in which I work and what I understand about metaphysics has completely changed. My intention is to share with you parts of my own journey and the practices that have worked for me, in the hope that it will aid your own development. However, it is important to remember that we are all unique in the way in which we energetically transmit and receive. And we may be new to the process, or we may be further along the line. It also depends upon our intentions. Why do we want to become more intuitively aware? What do we plan on doing with an expanded understanding of our intuitive self? Of course, there is no right or wrong answer, just one that is relevant to ourselves. So, be open to learning how it all works for you yourself. Understanding that will require a little time and a degree of experience. See it as an ongoing work in progress, a lifelong project even, rather than something to become an expert in after watching a few videos. So now we get to the question, what is the difference between intuitive and psychic? Intuition is something possessed by all feeling beings. It isn't solely the domain of human souls. The animal kingdom has demonstrated its intuitive capacity again and again, proving that it too has, quote-unquote, the gift. For example, animals suddenly removing themselves to a higher ground before a tsunami hits. I believe that intuition is a tool in our life box, if you like, designed to assist us as we maneuver our way along the pathway of our personal journey. Whether we believe it was gifted to us by a superior outer source or see it as a natural consequence of evolution doesn't matter. It works in exactly the same way. So, intuition is an innate ability, though not one that is always obvious. Many people either ignore theirs or dismiss it as mere imagination. And, as with all abilities in life, some folk appear to be more naturally adept than others, though practice can definitely level the playing field. So, sensing something is intuitive. A sudden strong feeling about a situation or person is intuitive. A sudden spontaneous thought answer to a problem we've been chewing over is intuitive. Walking into a room and being immediately aware of the vibe is intuitive. Humming a song and then turning on the radio only to find that song is playing is intuitive. Suddenly having an urge to do something and later discovering why it was necessary is intuitive. Psychic ability derives from intuition. It is a honed version of intuition that is outwardly directed. For example, consciously focusing in order to obtain insight or information is to work psychically. When I am tuning into a customer or any situation I want to know more about, I am calling upon my psychic ability. Is it possible to receive spontaneous psychic flashes? Absolutely. Many people will experience this at least once, including those who aren't believers. It has to be said, though, that it can sometimes be confusing, especially for the less experienced, to know for sure whether what we've just received is intuitive or psychic. So remember, psychic is intuition, a honed version of intuition that is outwardly directed. There are 4 levels of energetic communication, which are everyday type of intuitive nudges, stronger spontaneous intuitive flashes, deliberate psychic tuning in, and mediumship. And of course, we can also call upon another person to engage their psychic ability on our behalf. What would be examples of everyday type intuition? Well, someone we haven't seen or heard from a while suddenly pops into our mind. And then we bump into them on the street or receive a phone call from them out of the blue. We're absent-mindedly humming a particular tune, and we turn the car radio on only to find that song is playing. We're shopping and an item that is not on our list keeps popping into our mind. And when we arrive home, someone says, "I don't suppose you bought so-and-so, did you? I've just used the last of it." What would be some examples of stronger, spontaneous flashes from my own life? Well, one morning on the screen of my mind, I saw my eldest daughter, who was around 7 at the time, with an egg-shaped lump on her forehead. I took her rollerblades away from her and believed we had dodged a bullet. However, later that day, whilst out visiting her aunt, she tripped over a paving stone and ended up with a big, shiny lump on her forehead. Another example is an image of an email appeared briefly upon the screen of my mind, long enough for me to know that it was a complaint. And within a couple of hours, a rather unreasonable customer contacted me to let me know exactly what she thought about me, in no uncertain terms. And here's another example. I had been trying to find the contact number or address of a woman who had recently caused me a lot of trouble, and I was having no luck. She'd contacted me and withheld her number and refused to give it to me. But I knew that I'd provided a consultation for this woman at some point in the distant past, but couldn't remember exactly when. And then, in the early hours of one morning, my mind said something like, "Get up now and check your diary." I stumbled downstairs, half asleep, picked up my diary, and it literally fell open on the page containing this woman's address and phone number. I was now in a position to take appropriate action, and when I did, she backtracked as fast as her feet would carry her. So what is deliberate, conscious tuning in? Well, this is what I do when I'm working with a customer. I start by closing my eyes and focusing my attention upon that person as I gaze into the soft darkness behind my eyelids. This is where I say the screen of the mind is to be found. I then wait, firstly for the sense to develop. The sense is the most important thing for me. And then for the images to appear, be they still frames or moving clips. Now, I can tune in without closing my eyes if I'm asked something out of the blue or want to gain a bit of a sense of a situation, but it won't be as detailed. I also do this when I'm tuning into a specific situation in an attempt to glean important information. And I have used this method when looking into missing persons cases, but it can be exhausting, upsetting, and frustrating, and is therefore something I prefer to avoid. The next module coming up is titled The Four Clairs.